The following is presented by the Cheeky Bastards.
Brace for impact, buckaroos, because your skulls are about to take a gargantuan blast of action-packed jackassery to the fucking ear holes. And audio exposure so mind-numbing extreme protective headwear should be mandatory to listen to this level of inane horseshit. So lock and load, buttercups, and prepare your tiny minds for your monthly assault of grade A action movie mayhem, filled with enough high-octane carnage, insane shootouts, and nose-busting fisticuffs that Michael Bay himself would weep like the little product placement bitch that he is. Now duck and cover my little cupcakes because it's time for the Men of Action podcast, a show packed with enough testosterone-filled bravado it could take down a small nation. So here are your hosts, those cheeky bastards themselves. From America, it's the notorious Scott K, and from England, it's the cynical Mr. Smith. They may be C-grade meat, but you can bet your ass they're packing some serious fucking heat. Shit's about to get explosive.
Heidi-ho, you slag-jawed sons of bitches, and welcome to the Men of Action podcast. I'm the notorious Scott K.
And my name is Mr. Smith.
And we will be your cheeky, cantankerous, opinionated motherfucking hosts on this monthly action-filled quest as we pit two kick-ass action movie sequels up against one another in a no-holds-barred battle to the motherfucking death. To not only see which one truly reigns supreme, but if either is actually worthy of being a fucking sequel in the first place. On tap for you this month is an espionage action sequel showdown as 2006 Mission Impossible 3 squares off against 2012's The Bourne Legacy. But before Steve accepts yet another impossible mission and I begin my training to become a shadowy governmental operative, it is my pleasure to welcome in my cheeky co-host, Mr. Stephen Hunt Smith. Mr. Smith, welcome to the mission.
Hello, everybody. This is your mission. Should you choose to accept it?
This podcast will explode in 5, 4. I wish we had the technology advancement for that.
If only.
At the end of the episode, it just runs out and says, stay explosive, my friends. All of a sudden, it actually blows up in their hands. That'd be phenomenal. But we don't have that. Jeff Bezos is spending too much time sending bitches into space, so we don't have that, all right?
We don't got that kind of money over here.
No. Now, Mr. Smith, I'm going to be completely transparent. I absolutely fucking love this genre of action films. It has become my favorite, especially the new modern American espionage movies, which I think helped I think kind of both of these have helped push Bond into a whole new different way of looking at how it presents its character.
Yeah.
And when we put this together, and I am super fucking excited about the Showdown because one, it kind of is we're getting towards the end of the season.
You can't lose.
It does lead a little bit into what we've got planned, kind of, without giving too much away, for the next. So for season 3 of Men of Action, we're technically season 4 of us being together on the show.
Right.
So are you a fan of this genre of action movies? And what are your take on the espionage, especially the modern? Because I know you being from England, you grew up with the Bond, and we all know what Bond was. And what?
Yeah.
Is it different, more debonair, more should I say, Ocean's 11 type of...
Yeah, well, see, the thing, I think, without getting too far ahead, obviously, Bond is, let me put it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Ian Fleming is responsible, really, for Mission Impossible and Robert Ludlum's novels.
Oh, yes.
Well, right, but...
One begat the other, and the other begat the other. Like,
exactly.
Kind of like a tennis match?
It's like, look, all patriotism aside, look, I love James Bond. I grew up watching James Bond. They were literally all we had, okay? And it's the longest running franchise of all time. And there's been highs and there have been very, very lows. I'm looking at you, Octopussy. And a couple
I
of
was
others.
surprised there wasn't 8 pussies. I thought that was what the movie was
that was
about. I'm wrong. Yeah.
Jesus, that was a missed opportunity. But so, Bond, there's been highs and lows with Bond, but there's the familiarity of Bond is something, and there was the campness, the goofiness, and as you pointed out, they eventually were a bit old hat. They were surpassed, and as we discussed in a previous episode, it really needed what we call a boot up the arse, which we got with the Daniel Craig's.
Yes, we did.
The Daniel Craig arc, which I just happened to have watched. I will say this. So I just watched No Time to Die. Then I watched Mission Impossible 3. Then I watched the Bourne pentalogy or whatever you want to call it. And quite frankly, I needed a fucking break. My heart was about to give out due to the intensity.
He was about to start a mission. You didn't even know it. Everything he sees now is a mission.
I was not capable. I was not cut out for it. My heart was about to give out. It was
your boss
the whole
like, hey, can we get some more ink for the printer? You're like, wait a minute, where's this printer? It's in Bangladesh. Got it. I got a mission.
Yeah, so exactly, like you say, Bond was a heavy influence on the two franchises we're now talking about, and they both in turn re-influenced Bond. So I said one big...
As we got modern, they changed how they were, previously looked at and decided to go more of a realistic, action-heavy, feel like, man, this is a real person doing this, as opposed to like, I'm very suave and I'm going to sexy you out of your pants.
But the Bond movies of old, I mean, I would point people in the direction of From Russia with Love, which was a an earlier Connery one, as reality based as they could be, which isn't very, but it's hinting at a more sophisticated. It was only when Roger Moore came along that things took a goofier turn, and there was a knowing wink to the audience of silliness. I mean, I will shout out George Lazenby's On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is starting to have a bit of a resurgence in reputation, and deservedly so. And then, of course, you've got Pierce Brosnan and Timothy Dalton had their moments.
Brosnan's responsible for one of the most popular games ever in GoldenEye.
Oh, in GoldenEye, yeah.
I mean, GoldenEye's a classic.
Yeah, I mean, I was a fan to a point, but they, suddenly then you end up with invisible cars and Madonna showing up, and so they constantly tend to eat themselves, and ruin their own party. And it wasn't until I feel
Casino Royale.
Well, the Craig art.
Yeah, agree, but like Casino Royale just like totally changed how people looked at the Bond.
And then we immediately had a misstep with Quantum of Solace.
Yep.
Which is so action heavy that you feel a little bit like I don't care.
Yeah.
So the action didn't really propel anything. It was just like, boat chase, aeroplane chase, this, and then it was, you need more. And then, of course, Skyfall, Spectre, which I'm a huge fan of, and No Time to Die, which I hold in quite high regard as well. So,
I mean, as we've talked about, Skyfall isn't just a great Bond movie. It's a great overall movie, and we put it in our top 100.
True. And like I said, Spectre's like a genuine Bond movie. It's got, you've got Dave Bautista as like the Jaws character that was popular in the Moore movies. You've got Blofeld by Christoph Waltz.
Yep.
You've got the whole bomb strapped to the woman, and he's got to get into the finder in the building, and all these things that are tropes from the days of old. So, Bond needed to boot up the arse, and the Mission Impossibles, and I would actually say the Bourne movies more.
The Bourne movies made both of them better. We're going to talk about it in a second.
But we'll get to all that. There's a lot of ground to cover, really.
And we'll talk about, because maybe there was someone else in the 2000s who did the Mission Impossible #2 that you thought, well, this franchise is dead in the water. And then
we'll get to all that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Yeah, already. Yeah.
Well, that means it's time for us to light the fucking fires and kick the tires on this motherfucking Mission Impossible laced espionage. Where's Jason Bourne main event?
And now the moment you've all been waiting for, our espionage action sequel Showdown main event. In the red corner is the 2006 espionage action film Mission Impossible 3. And in the blue corner is the 2012 espionage action film The Bourne Supremacy. So get ready for a no-holds-barred head-to-head collision of two espionage action sequel stalwarts. Two movies enter, only one movie leaves. It's time for the Men of Action movie Face-Off.
Let's get ready to rumble!
As we've done this entire season, we take a look at the numbers behind each of the franchises we discussed, and up first this month is the Mission Impossible franchise. Now to date, Mission Impossible franchise has 8 installments, with one, as you listen to this, having just come out at the end of May. So the 8th is now out there in the ether, and there's a possibility of more installments in the future. The franchise also begat itself from a TV series. Now, Mission Impossible was created by Bruce Geller, and the first Mission Impossible film came out in 1996, with Mission Impossible 2 debuting in 2000. Somehow, it survived the death stroke that is Mission Impossible 2, and the one we talk about today, Mission Impossible 3, debuted in 2006. Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol came out in 2011, Rogue Nation in 2015, Fallout in 2018, Dead Reckoning in 2023, and The Final Reckoning came out this year in 2025. In 2024, the franchise received its first ever Academy Award nominations when Dead Reckoning was nominated for Best Visual Effects and Best Sound. And I'm hoping now that they have introduced a Best Stunts category, the first person to win it, and I give all credit to all the stunt performers who have come before, all of them. However, if you're going to give one, the man who needs a lifetime achievement for doing his own stunts is Mr. Thomas Hunt Cruise, who hopefully will get one for all the insane batshit stuff he has done in this series alone. But we shall see. Now, Dead Reckoning and The Final Reckoning were meant to be the send-off for the Ethan Hunt character. However, in June of 2023, Christopher McQuarrie stated that there are plans for future installments of the franchise and that Mr. Cruise has expressed interest in continuing the role of Ethan Hunt. In what capacity, we don't know. Maybe it's going to be like, if you're a fan of any of the Batman cartoons, as they got further down with like Darkwing, where Bruce Wayne was no longer wearing the suit, and kind of now maybe we'll get an Ethan Hunt on that respect, where he turns into the M character that we would know from our days of the Bond.
Right. Yeah, it's a possibility.
Now, the franchise has received positive reviews from critics and audiences alike, with the latter four films especially attracting significant praise. Having one of the most recognizable theme songs in cinema and TV history was created by Lalo Schifrin. Now, like our James Bond films, a number of famous artists have also added their own unique songs to the franchise soundtracks, including U2, Metallica, Rob Zombie, and the American classic band Limp Bizkit.
I like Limp Bizkit.
I like the songs they put in. Like there's something about it. I don't know why. It's just, I know it's probably, yeah, this is my guilty pleasure. These songs from the franchise. Now, Mission Impossible is based off a TV series, as I said. It debuted in 1966 and ran for 7 seasons. It was revived again in 1988 for an additional 2 seasons. This franchise also has 7 video games, 10 novels, and 3 comic book series based on it. Mission Impossible has had 5 directors, including Brian De Palma, John Woo, J.J. Abrams, Brad Bird, and now Christopher McQuarrie, who has helmed the last 4 in the series. These Mission Impossible films to date have been made on a budget of $1.5 billion, but has a worldwide box office of $4.1 billion. Now, Mission Impossible Fallout is the highest grossing film of the franchise so far, with $791.6 million at the box office, and also holds the highest IMDb rating with a 7.7. That brings us to the Bourne franchise. To date, the Bourne franchise has 5 installments with a possible 6th and a spin-off TV series. Bourne was created by Robert Ludlum, with the Bourne Identity coming out in 2002, the Bourne Supremacy in 2004, the Bourne Ultimatum in 2007, the Bourne Legacy in 2012, and Jason Bourne in 2016. In 2023, it was announced that a 6th film was officially in development with Edward Berger directing. It was speculated that Damon might reprise his role in the film. As of 2024, it was reported that the title of the new film was The Bourne Dilemma. In January of 2025, the title was changed to Jason Bourne Exodus. In March of this year, it was announced that Universal Pictures had lost the rights to the franchise and that they were being shopped around to Paramount, Netflix, and Apple Studios, and it is unknown if Damon will return to reprise his role. Now, this franchise has also had a spin-off TV series entitled Treadstone that ran on the USA Network in 2019 for only 1 season. And it also had a TV miniseries predating the films back in the old 1988 entitled The Bourne Identity that starred the very Bond-esque looking Richard Chamberlain as Jason Bourne, with Jacqueline Smith of the Jacqueline Smith workout tapes as Marie St. Jacques.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace. Richard Chamberlain died very recently, yeah.
He was killed by the original Jason, by Matt Damon, who there can be only one Jason Bourne. That's the dilemma.
Damn you, Matt Damon.
Damn you, Matt Damon. On the music front, I did not know this, but Moby's Extreme Ways is used as the end titles for all 5 films. And the Bourne films have won 3 Academy Awards, all for Ultimatum, when they won Best Film Editing, Sound, and Best Sound Editing. Now, this franchise has 21 novelizations and a theme park ride associated with it. The Bourne franchise has had 3 directors, with Paul Greengrass directing 3 of these films. The Bourne films today have been made on a total budget of $520 million and have a worldwide box office of $1.6 billion. The Bourne Ultimatum is the highest grossing film of the franchise with $442.8 million at the box office, and it also holds the highest IMDb rating with an 8. Pretty impressive.
Not bad. Pretty good.
Yeah. Now it is time for us to put these 2 heavyweights in the espionage arena into the ring. And up first in the red corner, from 2006, it is Mission Impossible 3.
It's time for the tale of the tape. Mission Impossible 3 was released in 2006, written by Alex Kurtzman, Robert Orkey, and J.J. Abrams, and directed by J.J. Abrams, starring Tom Cruise, Ving Rhames, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Michelle Monaghan, Maggie Q, Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, Billy Crudup, Kerry Russell, Simon Pegg, Lawrence Fishburne, and Eddie Marsan. Made on a budget of $186 million and grossing $398.5 million at the box office. It holds a 6.9 rating on IMDb with a 71 critics and 69 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. On Letterboxd, Steve gives this 3 stars, while Scott gives it 4 stars. IMF agent Ethan Hunt comes into conflict with a dangerous and sadistic arms dealer who threatens his life and that of his fiancées in Paramount Pictures' Mission Impossible 3.
Agent confirmed.
Stand by to go live. On my mark. 5.
You have a wife, girlfriend?
4. 3.
Whoever she is, I'm gonna find her.
2.
I'm gonna hurt her.
1.
And then I'm gonna kill you right in front of her.
What are you not telling me?
Execute.
Such a nice car.
Do it. It's Hunt. I know it's Hunt.
You'll never get what you want! You don't think I'll do it?
Mr. Smith, once again, you have been tasked with a mission. Should you accept, you will be giving us the behind the scenes to Mission Impossible 3.
Okay, so development for a third Mission Impossible film began in 2002 with David Fincher slated to direct. The basic storyline of the version on which he was working dealt with black market trade of body parts in Africa, apparently written by Frank Darabont of Shawshank Redemption and Green Mile, etc. Fincher and his eventual replacement Joe Carnahan both departed in 2004, both citing creative differences. Delays in production caused prospective cast additions Kenneth Branagh, Carrie-Anne Moss, and Scarlett Johansson to depart the film. After his departure, Fincher was quoted as saying the problem with the third movie was that the people who were financing it felt like they were experts on how it should be made and what it should be. At that point, when you own a franchise like that, you want to get rid of any extraneous opinions, obviously hinting at the studio interference that would later hamper box office juggernauts like the Marvel Universe and the Star Wars franchise. After a creative dispute, Carnahan quit in July of 2004. Cruise apparently then called J.J. Abrams, offering the directorial role for the film after having binge-watched the first 2 seasons of Alias. Abrams ultimately signed on, and production was delayed a year due to his contractual obligations with Alias and Lost. Billy Bob Thornton was offered the role of Owen Davian, but he declines. He didn't want to be typecast as a villain. Well, that was then, and now that's pretty much all he does. The role eventually went to Philip Seymour Hoffman. No, on June the 8th, 2005, Paramount Pictures gave the film the green light after a new cast of actors were hired. The film's budget was redeveloped, with Cruise taking a major pay cut. English screenwriter Ben Treblecook penned previous drafts and had Ang Lee in talks to direct. One story involved the destruction of various wonders of the world, which was set as a prequel to the first movie and brought back Emilio Estevez. The script contained elements deemed too sensitive, as they drew close parallels to the 9/11 attacks. As the production could do nothing about inquisitive crowds watching them while they were filming in Rome, they actually set up a phony second unit a little further away, hired several girls in bikinis and several older women dressed as nuns, and pretended to be filming takes for the film while the main unit got on with their business largely undisturbed. With a budget of $180 million, this is the most expensive movie ever undertaken by a first-time feature director. Special effects technician Stephen Scott Wheatley sued Paramount Pictures and Tom Cruise's production company for gross negligence after the pyrotechnics in a stunt which he was involved went wrong and he was engulfed in a ball of flame. Wheatley suffered third-degree burns on over 60% of his body. Now, this isn't the first time Ving Rhames has appeared in a movie in which a female character has adrenaline directly injected into her heart.
You don't say.
This also happened to, of course, Uma Thurman's character in Pulp Fiction. As previously mentioned, the film's production had to be delayed for at least a year until summer 2005 due to Abrams' creative commitments, but this allowed Tom Cruise's cooperation with Steven Spielberg to put War of the Worlds in motion. A blog entry for HollywoodInterrupted.com in March 2006 alleged that Viacom, parent of Paramount and Comedy Central, cancelled the rebroadcast of the South Park episode Trapped in the Closet due to threats by Cruise to refuse to participate in the Mission Impossible free publicity circle. These assertions were soon also reported by E! News. Fox News attributed threats from Cruise stating to back out of his Mission Impossible free promotional duties if they didn't pull the repeat of the evidence. As evidence of bad blood between Cruise and Viacom, apparently. The Washington Post reported that South Park fans struck back in March 2006 and threatened to boycott Mission Impossible 3 until Comedy Central put Trapped in the Closet back on his schedule. Melissa McNamara of CBS News later questioned whether this boycott hurt the film's box office debut. Political blogger Andrew Sullivan encouraged a boycott of the film based on claims that Cruise allegedly forced Comedy Central to censor a South Park episode about Scientologists. Make sure you don't go see Paramount's Mission Impossible 3, Cruise's upcoming movie, Sullivan wrote. I know you weren't going to go see it anyway, but now any money you spend on this movie is a blow against freedom of speech. Boycott it and tell your friends to boycott it. Now, Mission Impossible 3 was made with a budget close to $185 million and achieved over $400 million at the box office, but that barely covered its losses, so not quite a box office smash. In fact, it made less than its predecessor, the much maligned Mission Impossible 2. Opening in 4,054 theaters all across the United States, the fourth largest opening ever up to that point. The film topped the box office in its opening weekend and made $16.6 million in its opening day and $47.7 million in its opening weekend. A solid opening, yet almost $10 million lower than the franchise's previous film. The film's domestic gross was significantly lower than that of Mission Impossible 2 and remains the lowest of the series as of 2022. On the television show Ebert and Roper, Richard Roper gave Mission Impossible 3 a thumbs up, while Roger Ebert gave it a marginal thumbs down. In Ebert's print review, he gave the film a score of 2.5 stars out of 4, saying, either you want to see mindless action and computer-generated sequences executed with breakneck speed and technical precision, or you do not. I'm getting to the point where I don't much care. He felt surprised that the plot hangs together more than in the other two films. Ian Nathan of Empire said that Mission Impossible 3 has an inspired middle hour pumped by some solid action, but added that we now live in a post-Bourne, recalibrated Bond universe, where Ethan Hunt looks a bit lost. Manola Dargis of the New York Times said that Hoffman enlivens Mission Impossible 3, but criticised the film's maudlin romance and Abrams' inability to adapt his small-screen talent to a larger canvas. Rob Nelson of the Dallas Observer said that Abrams' movie is too oppressive, too enamoured of its brutality to deliver anything like real thrills. Its deeply unpleasant tone nearly makes you long, even for Mission Impossible 2 director John Woo's cartoon absurdities. Pete von der Haar of Film Threat said you may be mildly entertained, but damned if you'll remember any of it 5 minutes later. And Stephanie Zacharek of Salon.com said Cruise is the single bright blinking emblem of the failure of Mission Impossible 3.
Bourne changes everything in 2002. We have two Bournes up to that point, 02 and 04. This is before Daniel Craig has launched his Bond. And this is, in my opinion, when Mission Impossible, here's the funny thing, the Mission Impossible films we get post this one do not happen without this film.
Wow.
I will die on that hill. You do not get any of what we've gotten since without Mission Impossible 3. Mission Impossible 1 was Brian De Palma staying true to the original TV series, which, as you pointed out in our earlier salvo about it took its cues from Bond. So Mission Impossible, and I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the first two at all. I was bored. These speak more to me. Maybe it's my military time. Maybe it's the world we live in post 9/11.
I actually think it's simpler than that.
Okay.
I mean,
yes.
You know why you like the movie.
Yeah.
no, Scott, that's not why.
Tell me why I like this film, please. I don't even know.
No, what I mean is, I think Mission Impossible isn't an action movie. It is.
No.
It's a spy thriller. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Then I think but I think they totally did the right thing in hiring John Woo because
Who he is.
He's an action genius
In Hong Kong, as we've pointed out. Yes.
We have been there before. No, you're right in that without this movie, Mission Impossible 3, I mean, Mission Impossible was dead on its ass after the John Woo.
Yes.
Which,
Like I said, it's a
made more
miracle that
money.
this is even. Well, again, I think we all know it made money because it's John Woo. I think they're like, oh, and probably because people, I know you don't like Face Off, but people are probably like, you know what, I didn't mind Face Off.
People love Face
What was the
Off.
one right after that? The one with the Travolta and
Broken Arrow.
Broken Arrow. They're not terrible films. I mean, they're not terrible.
Well, Hard
right? But
Target. We've talked about.
They're not his Hong Kong stuff by any stretch of
I
imagination.
think Hard Target is the closest you're going to get to an actual John Woo movie in America. But we've talked about all that.
Yeah.
But I think it made perfect sense to pair John Woo with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
But hey, it just didn't fucking work.
Have you seen Alias? Have you seen Alias at all?
The series, no. I don't really.
Okay, so I had watched it and I enjoyed it. And the series of Alias starts off with the lead character. We are thrown right in, and this is kind of what JJ did, is we're thrown right in, and she is being tortured in North Korea, getting her teeth pulled out of her in a torture sequence, right? So he kind of rehashes his idea for the script to do a similar vein. We throw Ethan Hunt into a situation where he is not necessarily being tortured, but he's captured and he has got to give up information or the girl he's with is going to be killed. And we think that she is killed. And so now they throw us into him being in love with her. Now we got to go, oh shit. Like we now think we know what's going to happen. But we want to find out how we get there. And anyone who knows Philip Seymour Hoffman up to this point, you have never seen Philip Seymour Hoffman. This is the juiciest role I think Seymour Hoffman's ever done. Now I know he's good in The Commander, and I know and he's good in a lot of things. I mean, he is full villain in this. And he doesn't have that look of it, but somehow he portrays it, like just brilliantly portrays being a villain. At least in my opinion, I love Philip Seymour Hoffman as the villain in this movie. I think he is spectacular.
He's a great villain in this. Personally, I actually, not pushing back, but I think he's underused in it though.
I would agree. I would agree that somehow when the switch that Billy Crudup's the guy,
yeah,
it does feel like really Billy Crudup is running this guy. But what, hey, look, whatever. But this was a shot in the arm. And I think the bad reviews come from a bunch of critics who are fans, and this is not a slight at the Bond franchise at all, but they're a fan of the Bond, and they like their espionage the way they like their espionage. They are not ready for the change. And you can even tell they're pushing back against Bourne in their reviews. They're like, well, thanks, Jason Bourne. Now that we've got you, now every espionage is going to be this way. They still want theirs shaken, not stirred. I can only imagine. We should probably look at what some of these assholes said 6 years later when Daniel Craig debuts the new Bond. Especially when, Bond becomes a whole different kind of character. He becomes a blunt object. He's still debonair and suave, but in a more man's man. Like the definition of who these men are have changed from being, like I said, Danny Ocean, slick, kind of suave, good looking. They're not brute force. To now, what if you were to take James Bond and mix him with John McClane? Now you've got our new action heroes, guys that you can go, yeah, this seems more like what they would be doing in the spy world. Yeah. Like it feels like this is the level they would ramp it up to. Yeah,
but I think what the critics are saying is, in a world of Bourne and Bond,
they still want Bond.
Well, no. I think what they're saying is, the Mission Impossible just seems a little bit glib.
Which is funny because I think
funnily enough, to use a Tom Cruise term, I think they're seen as a little bit shallow. And I actually did, but I felt, right, I haven't seen Alias. I haven't even seen Lost. But I did, there were certain points in Mission Impossible 3 where I felt a little bit like I was watching a TV that had a kind of TV vibe to it. But I think what I'm now going to say is all about what I enjoy. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily that they've done something wrong, is that that's not my cup of tea. There's a bit of corniness and a bit of, like, when they're firing the baseballs onto the top of the building, and when Ethan Hunt is, I nearly called him Ethan Hawke then. No, that's something I'd say. But and when he's chasing that test tube thing down the streets and that's bouncing out of his way, and I'm just like, I feel a little bit like you're kind of cheapening. You're trying to have your cake and eat it too. Whereas you want this to be an intense, more serious kind of movie. Yet you're throwing in some kind of corny things that are taking me out of it.
This is not to save it from it.
No,
but
no, that's just
J.J. Abrams is a huge Spielberg fan. He literally looks at himself
He's
as
no fucking Spielberg, is my point.
I'm not saying
no,
it.
I know you're not.
But what I'm saying is that if you look, so you love the opening of what we talked about 2 months ago. You love the opening of
Temple of Doom.
Indiana Temple of Doom.
This is not Temple of Doom.
No, it's not. But I'm saying that's his like he is still leaning a little bit into like he goes,
and it hurts
Steven.
the movie.
I don't disagree.
Hurts the movie to me.
It does because all of a sudden it's like, oh, we've got Indiana Jones style, not shenanigans, but like, okay, so now we're gonna because we know we need to get
like
this.
Shenanigans to me.
Yeah, we're gonna chase us
felt
across.
like shenanigans to me. My point being, if you go back in earlier into the film, the assault on the bridge is insanely great.
I like the assault to get Kerry Russell's character out, and then her suddenly just dying in the helicopter.
Yeah.
Because that's the great thing about this is like you're saying, it raises the stakes. It's completely different than what we've been getting. Like we've always argued about in some of the movies we watch with Bruce is like, we know there's no stakes. We know that no one's in danger.
Right.
In this movie, it sets it up early because you're like, okay, well, obviously his girlfriend, obviously we know how the end eventually works. But like, well, his girlfriend or wife just got murdered, just got killed. And now his partner he's trying to save, normally you save them, they don't die. She's died. And then you think, okay, well, we do this amazing thing. We go to, what's it called? Maggie Q comes out. You're like, Jesus, H Christ. We go to the Vatican. We do this whole big, kind of Mission Impossible looking thing, which was kind of cool. And then all of a sudden, we're bringing them back. And then there's that bridge attack with the fucking Predator drone and the helicopter with guys. And then Tom Cruise, Tom Cruise does his throwing the gun, like, the cool shit that Tom Cruise can do. And then he gets arrested. You're kind of like, what the fuck is happening? And then we do the China thing. And you're like, are we still really chasing after the rabbits?
Which again is another, it kind of negates the whole movie.
I get you.
So all I'm saying is there are problems with Mission Impossible 3. I would say at the beginning with the woman with the microchip in her head that fucking kills her. We don't even know she is though.
No, I'm not worried about knowing who she is.
No,
I think
we should be. My point is that lacks. There's no real. Yeah. There's a dilemma for him there, obviously, because that's part of his team. But there's not. We don't feel that because we don't know her from anyone else. She's just an operative.
It feels like there's a big gap in the 10 years or 8 years from when the first one comes out and they pretend that the second one didn't happen and then we go to the third one. You know what I mean? It kind of is like, listen, don't worry about it. It happens somewhere on the other side.
Well, it's kind of like the funny thing about why the first one doesn't completely work is because it is like this deadly serious, like espionage spy
and then the
thriller.
Ending?
And then, there's some cool shit. But
it's cool, but like that, whatever.
Yeah, but that's not the film I've been watching for the last hour and 40 minutes, is my point.
Yes,
so it's a bit disjointed. Because, the sequence where he's hanging in the first movie, which they kind of repeat slightly. That's totally De Palma. I don't want to get into it, but I think that hurts the later films is that they stuck with the same director.
Oh, you mean Christopher McQuarrie?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not dissing Christopher McQuarrie at all. That's not my point. My point is when you got De Palma, Wu, Abrams, and McQuarrie, you should have then, I feel, gone to another director, like they do with Bond.
With Bond, yeah.
Sam Mendes did too, though, so, that's not completely fair. But at the same time, it's like, if it ain't broke...
Why fix it? Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. He's a competent director who's totally in sync with Cruise and that. But personally, I would have liked to have seen different personalities come in and put there. But that's by the by because we're not talking about them movies. We're talking about this movie, and I think there's some good shit in this movie.
I thoroughly love this movie.
But there's some moments where I feel like they're cheapening what's going on, and it's taking me out of it, and it's not making me feel as invested as like the action, the scenes we've discussed. I'm all in. My fists are clenched.
Yeah.
And then it can't help but
I know,
sideline
it
itself
can,
with some
yep.
corniness. And
Yep,
that
I
lets
agree
it,
with you, yeah.
That lets it down, but not enough to make me say I don't like the movie. You know, it's not a perfect movie, of course, but then, you know, very few are.
The funny thing is, the best levity is when he's running and and Simon Pegg doesn't want to get arrested for he's the number one guy on everyone's wanted list, and he's like, I'm going to go to prison with you. Tom Cruise is running. I saw a documentary on this, and Tom Cruise was clocked in that China scene where he's running alongside the river. He got up to 17 miles an hour in that. Tom Cruise, look, personal life, the man's a fucking whack job, all right? But what I at least respect about Tom Cruise is the movie actor. That man gives it every fucking thing he has. Everything. Top Gun Maverick, how much we talked about a couple years ago. The summer of 2022, this movie makes me want to cry. Like, I didn't think I was going to fucking... Yeah,
no, that was
we talked about, we looked around the theater, like, wasn't this, we felt like this, what a movie. And I love that about Tom is, even when there's some shortfalls in him, he's always giving everything he possibly can. Man, he's so believable. And I think he's our modern day Bruce Willis type, whereas even less maybe so than Damon, and even we look at Daniel Craig. They get a little bit more buff. I don't mean like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Stallone buff, but they're definitely bigger size when they're in these movies. Tom doesn't really buff up like that. He does feel like a guy that we could actually be like, you know what? I do a few more sprints. You know what I mean? Like, I could probably...
You look at his last couple of mission movies, he's getting old.
Well, of course. But
at the same time as well, what I have an issue with sometimes, not so much in this movie, but later mission movies, I don't really give a fuck that Tom Cruise did the did the motorbike jump. All right, that doesn't make the movie better.
I understand.
And that's not all, and that wasn't all that it seemed anyway. There was a lot of trickery involved in that. But again, I don't mind that, but I do mind when they're hanging the movie on it, because I don't give a fuck.
Oh, I know what you mean. I
don't give a fuck if it was a stuntman or him doing it. That doesn't make the movie better.
You know what? I think it's because it happened a couple years ago when it was shown online, back when, before half the stuff would happen, but when he's hanging off the plane, right? Yeah. And so they send you a video of that, and then all of a sudden the studio realizes that gets a lot of fucking clicks. And so now, instead of waiting for you to see the movie, like, well, watch this stunt. And you're kind of like, okay, but I would prefer go into the movie and then see the stunt and be like, are you fucking kidding me? And then you tell me after the movie, I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, he did all of that. Because they're doing it again, but he's hanging off another plane in this movie. This is the culture
we're living in. So
I know. I don't blame Tom for that. That's the marketing machines that are doing that bullshit.
No, this is nothing to do with that. This is just, for me, I'm just like, okay, it doesn't matter to me. Whereas in this, well, yeah, no, for this movie specifically, compared to what came later, it seems silly to say this, but it's almost a bit more grounded.
I think so too.
For a mission movie.
I think I like this one so much. One, because I didn't like the first two. And like I said, this was just happened to hit the same time with Bourne. I just really enjoyed the storytelling more in this. Yes, there's some... The getting the rabbit's foot, I enjoyed them not showing it, but I also, the way to getting to it was a little strange.
Well, we never really know, and we never get to know what it is. So that...
Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but I'm pretty sure that we get to know about it in the end of the movie. But people listening to this have already gone to see it. They know.
Movie.
I think the new one is...
Well, that's fucking 15...
I'm not, look at this, a long game. I don't know. It's like the Avenger thing. I'm
holding you personally fucking responsible.
This fucking guy over here, he's like, hey,
as an American,
I hold you personally responsible
as an American,
for 8 pussies not being an octopussy. You lying sacks your shit over there, all right? You sons of bitches. I dare you.
This is what this is all about.
There's octos. There's 8 of them.
But anyway, but and this has got something in common with the movie you're going to be discussing, but we'll get to that later. I'm going to say it.
Go ahead.
I've been cancelled before, but the end all hinges on his wife fucking saving the day as well. So I'm a little bit
I know what you mean. The whole thing.
On,
I get it. But at that point, it didn't bother me that much. That felt more realistic than him pulling another trick out of his ass, kind of thing. So. Well, not that she had to bring him back. I don't know if she saved the day, whatever.
Well, she's
shooting.
She's shooting people like she's in a John Woo movie, and I'm not down with that. That didn't matter. That makes sense, and that was silly.
Listen,
that was just another silly
not a John Woo movie. She's shooting people like a Michael Mann ending over here. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Collateral. I'm looking at you, you cocksucker. Tom Cruise is in there too. Apparently, no one but
no.
Everyone else but Tom Cruise can win at the end. You pieces of shit. Anyway,
anyway,
I do think that both the movies we're talking about are highly appreciated
Granted.
for what they are in there. But if you like what follows in the Mission Impossible world, it only because of this film. J.J. Abrams redirected this film.
He rescued
and
it.
changed it, and he rescued it. And I think it's a really good film. Honestly, I mean, the three main standards of this are Bond, Bourne, and Mission Impossible. And Mission Impossible is still around and still kicking, and they keep making money. So people are enjoying them because they're making not like 10 million. They're making hundreds of millions of dollars every time they come out.
Right.
These are franchises that can keep going and have opportunities to pass them on. And hopefully, because we're going to jump to the next one, if Tom Cruise is going to keep moving with these, I hope he does take a sidestep like the Bourne franchise decided to do and put someone else in the driver's seat and show us a different story and see how that goes, because I think we're going to have a nice conversation with this one as well.
We shall see.
Do you feel that Mission Impossible 3 is worthy of being a sequel in this franchise?
Well, I'll say yes, because it rescues the franchise. Really,
yes.
I feel the franchise was pretty much dead in the water after the John Woo disappointment. But that's all I'll say.
Okay.
I didn't feel that the movie was story-wise that compelling, but it's undeniable. It's undeniable that it rescued the franchise. So it's worthy as anything can be. So yeah, I will have to say it's a worthy sequel.
I agree 100%. I like it a little bit more than you, but I think our sensibilities, and I do think it has a lot to do with where we live in the world. I truly do. I don't mean that in a glib, as Tom Cruise says, glib manner. You've grown up on the Bond, so you already have a die-in-the-wool feeling of how espionage should go, and I 100% understand it, and don't expect... Just like we have different crime movies, right? Like British crime movies, and we have different similar.
But they should be different. We don't want them to be the same.
Oh, I agree. So
Yeah,
I don't take you not liking it as much as I like it as like I know there's probably Bond films you like, and I'm like, fuck that. You may even like Mission Impossible 1. I'm kind of like, I fucking can't stand Brian
I do
Palmer's
like Mission
movie.
Impossible 1, actually.
But that's because
that's got problems too.
But it leans a lot towards your sensibilities of the Bond films, right? So that's...
Well, that's the funny thing. That's kind of what I was saying earlier. When it gets to the end chase thing, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, what movie is this?
Now it's a Mission Impossible movie.
Exactly.
Of the later type.
From 3 on, that's why when I did my rewatches, I do 3 on. The first 2 seem like stepchildren. I'm sorry if you're a stepchild. I do apologize.
I could watch 1 again, mainly for De Palma, but I don't think I could ever sit through the second one again.
For me, and I know people are gonna be like, "What?" I think this is one. As I said, to me, this gets me in. The rest don't even matter to me unless this one's there. And I like J.J. Abrams. I was a fan of Alias, so that's probably why I side more with this one than the others. It's definitely a bias because I like J.J. Abrams' Alias. I like this, and I go Rogue Nation, Fallout, Dead Reckoning, Ghost Protocol, 1 and 2. That's how I go.
Right. I can do this very easily and very quickly. I will put Mission Impossible first, then I'll put Mission Impossible 3. Then the rest are indistinguishable to me, and Mission Impossible 2 last.
Up next in the fucking blue corner from 2012, it's The Bourne Legacy.
It's time for the tale of the tape. The Bourne Legacy was released in 2012, written by Tony and Dan Gilroy, and directed by Tony Gilroy, starring Jeremy Renner, Rachel Weisz, Edward Norton, Stacy Keach, Dennis Boutsikaris, Oscar Isaac, Joan Allen, David Strathairn, Albert Finney, Scott Glenn, Corey Stoll, and Zeljko Ivanek. Made on a budget of $125 million and grossing $276.1 million at the box office. It holds a 6.6 rating on IMDb with a 56 critics and 58 audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. On Letterboxd, Steve gives us 3.5 stars, while Scott gives it 3 stars. When the actions of Jason Bourne spark a fire that threatens to burn down decades of research across a number of secret intelligence agencies, those in charge decide to sacrifice outcome. It's 6 agents and the research scientists associated with it in Universal Pictures, The Bourne Legacy.
What's your name?
Kenneth Kitsom.
Where are you from?
Reno.
Will you give yourself to this program?
Yes, sir.
Right hand, please. Oh, that is healed well. Any diminished sensation?
No.
There is nothing that you wouldn't do for this country. You have the strength to do what's necessary.
Welcome to the program.
Jason Bourne was the tip of the iceberg.
Who the hell is he?
He's an outcome agent.
He's Treadstone without the inconsistency. We have never seen evaluations like this.
Now, it's my turn to jump out of an airplane, land somewhere in Alaska, fight off wolves, and, make my way to a mountaintop, and then find some honey, and we go all over the place. All right, here we go. This is a great little combination, but Daniel Craig visited his wife, Rachel Weisz, during their shoot in Manila. Producer Frank Marshall was glad to see them together, saying it was pretty cool to have James Bond on the Bourne set with Aaron Cross. We had a great time. It was really fun. As if he was going to say, that fucking piece of shit, the balls. That'd be even better, right? Like, the balls of James Bond to walk on
This
a Bourne
fucking
set.
cock-blocking son of a bitch over here.
I'm trying to bang his wife. He doesn't even know. Originally, a fourth installment for Jason Bourne was planned. However, Matt Damon and Paul Greengrass didn't like the script. Paul Greengrass didn't want to return as director, and Damon would have returned only if Paul was going to direct. After that, Tony Gilroy would rework the script into a Bourne spinoff now released as the Bourne Legacy. Now, anyone doesn't know who Tony Gilroy is? Tony Gilroy is having a current resurgence as Mr. Gilroy is responsible for Star Wars story Rogue One. And currently, Andor is killing it, as in my opinion, I've said it a couple years ago, it was one of my picks.
Yep.
First season, season 2. It is the best Star Wars show ever, hands down. There's no debate. It is unfucking believable. If you like spies, this series is how this rebellion starts. It's amazing. You will love that. So anyways, moving on. Matt Damon told the Playlist he could not see his character and the character played by Jeremy Renner being in a movie together. Fucking settle down, Damon, all right? Listen here, go Will Hunting. Go fuck yourself, all right? What are you talking about, all right? That guy was playing fucking Hawkeye in the Avengers. What are you playing with your dick? Come on. Fucking Damon over here. Slow it down. Now, Jeremy Renner doesn't say a word until 15 minutes and 7 seconds into the film. The film's storyline paralyzed the events of the Bourne Supremacy from 04 and the Bourne Ultimatum from 07 as the Blackbriar Project, instituted at the end of the original film, was fully activated, even as the CIA was still on the hunt for Jason Bourne. Before this movie was seriously considered, director Paul Greengrass, who helmed 2 earlier installments of the series, jokingly suggested to make a 4th Bourne movie, they should call it The Bourne Redundancy. And yet, this cocksucker returned to direct the 5th. So there's some humble pie for you, Paul Greengrass. You cocksucker. You and Damon. I hope Jeremy Renner finds you both and fucking chokes you out. You piece of shit. Now, when Aaron and Marta are flying overseas, stock footage of the Oceanic plane from Executive Decision was used. Oceanic Airlines is the default faux airline used by many studios in many movies and TV shows, including Mr. J.J. Abrams' Lost. Now, midway through the film, there's a brief aerial shot over Manila at night. A billboard can be seen with an ad for the fictional corporation U North from Michael Clayton, also directed by Tony Gilroy. Now, listen to this log line of people who were actually up for this role of Jeremy Renner's. Taylor Kitsch, Shia LaBeouf, Adam Brody, Garrett Hedlund, Luke Evans, Jake Gyllenhaal, Josh Hartnett, Tobey Maguire, Alex Petteriff, Dominic Cooper, Michael Fassbender, Kellen Lutz, Benjamin Walker, Aaron Arkin, Paul Dano, Joel Edgerton, Oscar Isaac, Logan Marshall Green, and Michael Pitt were considered for the role of Aaron Cross. However, Isaac was eventually cast in the different role as outcome number 3. Not to be outdone, but not as long, the ladies who were considered for Dr. Marta sharing include Blake Lively, Mila Jovovich, Kristen Kruk, Jennifer Lawrence, Kate Beckinsale, Kate Mara, Kate Bosworth, Diane Kruger, Eliza Dushku, Elizabeth Olsen, Michelle Monaghan, and Sarah Michelle Gellar. Wouldn't be fun if Michelle Monaghan had been it since she was the wife of Cruz.
Wait a minute.
Wait phenomenal. Like, oh, wait a minute, honey, what? Oh, we didn't know. That's why she was so good at shooting. Steve would have sat up and go, oh, I get it. Oh, my
now
God.
I get
It's
it.
a crossover. I didn't know. Now, in a totally fucking random bit of information, the main character's codename is Aaron Cross. Jason Bourne's German girlfriend in Bourne Identity is Maria Kreutz. Kreutz is the German word for cross. There you go, IMDb.
I don't know.
Look,
I
there
don't
we
know.
go. I don't know. Fall in the Wise, go cross, kick by me, let's go back. I don't know. The first 3 titles in this series, The Bourne Identity, The Bourne Supremacy, and The Bourne Ultimatum, follow each other in alphabetical order. This title, The Bourne Legacy, spoils that pattern. Tony Gilroy, you son of... Gilroy!
Gilroy, why are you order?
Now, Lisa Schwarzbaum of Entertainment Weekly gave the film an A-, commenting that Gilroy, who as a screenwriter has shaped the movie saga from the beginning, trades the wired rhythms established in the past 2 episodes by Paul Greengrass for something more realistic and closer to the ground. The change is refreshing. Jason Bourne's legacy is in good hands. Roger Ebert, formerly of the Chicago Sun-Times, also best friend of the new Pope from Chicago, gave the film 2.5 stars out of 4, writing, "The Bourne Legacy is always gripping in the moment. The problem is in getting the moments to add up. I freely confess that for at least the first 30 minutes, I had no clear idea of why anything was happening. Dialogue is concise, the cinematography is arresting, and the plot is murky and muddled." Peter DeBerg of Variety wrote, "The combination of Robert Elswit's elegant widescreen lensing and the measured editing of Tony Gilroy's brother John may be easier to absorb than Greengrass's hyperkinetic docu-based style. The Pic's convoluted script ensures that audiences will emerge no less overwhelmed." Michael Atkinson of The Village Voice also wrote a scathing review of the film, saying, "The Bourne films have more than just overstayed their welcome and outlasted the Ludlam books. They have been Van Halenized with an abrupt change of frontman and a resulting dip in personality." And Kenneth Turin of the LA Times gave the film a positive review, calling the film an exemplary espionage thriller that has a strong sense of what it wants to accomplish and how best to get there. He especially commended Gilroy's work on the film. Gilroy knows the underpinnings of this world inside and out and appreciates how essential it is to maintain and extend the house style of cool and credible intelligence that marked the previous films. I thought it was finally, but no, finally. Tom McCarthy of The Hollywood Reporter commented on his review that the series' legacy is lessened by this capable but uninspired 4th episode. Now, look, the Van Halen thing was actually right on the money because the Van Halens had 3 frontmen, for those you don't know. David Lee Roth, obviously, Sammy Hagar, and Guy Sharon, who we will not talk about. Now, obviously, Van Halen, David Lee Roth is an understated, one of the best frontmen ever. However, a bit of a douchebag, as Matt Damon may very well be, considering how fucking pearl clutching he is about this fucking character. But Sammy Hagar is the better frontman, as in vocally has kept his voice alive forever in the 70s, has all the albums that he was a part of were #1 albums, and has stood the test of time as being the more ingratiated frontman as opposed to dealing with David Lee Roth's bullshit. That being said, I think Jeremy Renner and this film do an excellent job of saying, look, we can't be Die Hard, right? Like, we can't be John McClane Die Hard. So we're going to play in John McClane's world of Die Hard. We're going to be a partner of his from earlier days. And we're going to do our own thing. And we're going to kind of show you some of the background of what this Treadstone thing is like. Because when we meet Damon's character, he has amnesia. He doesn't know where he is. And we learn that he's come from this thing and he's a world-class killer kind of thing. And we get flashbacks of how he joined in this and that. But we're kind of murky because he's trying to outrun them and not be captured by them, as he's kind of gone rogue and does not want to be a part of this life. Or Jeremy Renner's character, we learn, needs to be a part of this life because he's just dumb as a bag of sticks. And if he doesn't keep these pills going to keep all his life, he will crash. It's weird to feel like you're going to have a sad scene, but the saddest scene in this film is when he tells her, like, I'm dumb as fucking sticks. And if I don't have these blue pills, when I come off of this, from how low my IQ is to where I'm currently at on these pills, it's like Humpty Dumpty, he's going to wish. I wish I had that kind of fall. All right? Yeah. Humpty Dumpty's a fucking pussy in my mind because what's going to come if I don't keep these pills going?
I really like Jeremy Renner. I think he's, well, I mean, was he won an Oscar? Did he win an Oscar for
he's been up for him. I don't know if he won it. He's great in that. He's great in the movie that you we'll talk about at the end, but a movie you put in our top 100 underrated films of all time.
Wind River.
It's fantastic. I mean, he's really good as even Hawkeye in the Avengers. He sells that role. He's a really, funny enough, Jeremy Renner has been in Mission Impossible. He was in Mission Impossible either 4 or 5. He's in one of those 2. So Jeremy Renner's also been in Mission Impossible. He's in the one, I always forget the names of them. He's in the one with Tom Cruise. Right?
Is he in
he's
2?
In the one, I think he's in 2. He's in the one especially where Tom Cruise goes out the window.
Yeah. So he was nominated for an Oscar for Hurt Locker, and for The Town.
Oh, yes, I forgot about it. He's phenomenal in that too.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan, actually, and I really like him. And look, I think that was a very bold move with what they did here, obviously. Because it is like a Mission Impossible movie without Tom Cruise. But I think what they achieved quite a lot with this movie without Matt Damon, and I think they really expanded the backstory and history of Treadstone and Blackbriar, and
we get to meet Ed Norton's character, who we realize is like the guy who's been running
the
the
cast,
whole thing.
like you say, you've got Scott Glenn, you've got David Strathairn, you've got Edward Norton. I mean, you've got a great cast in this, and it's pretty relentless as well. I will say, one of the reviews said, like, for the first 20 minutes, I didn't really know what was going on, but I actually liked that. I actually liked it. They just drop you into this situation with him, and it's going back and forth between where he is and what they're doing. The murky goings on.
And do either of us know if Oscar Isaac was going to kill him or not?
Exactly.
I love that little chess match of either of them not knowing why the other one's there and not 100% sure.
And then out of the blue, of course, we get the assault.
Exactly.
So I actually find this quite a relentless and intense movie, and I think Jeremy Renner's great in it. I think the relationship he strikes up with Rachel Weisz is solid as well and believable. And just the expansion.
Yes, it's world building.
The murky and the pills, and so this is about a junkie trying to get a fix, this whole movie. Yeah?
He's
trying to get the best coke in the world.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes. He doesn't snort that coke soon, his brain will deteriorate to a size of a plum. And that's the game.
And I found, because when it goes back to them showing the videos of him being interviewed when he's come back from war, the war, I found a tremendous amount of sympathy for him.
I think he did a great job portraying how
damaged,
not just damaged, but how dumb he really was. Like how unintelligent he truly was. What a country bumpkin with very low IQ truly was. And because then when we see him as a outcome agent, he is far superior in intelligence. You can really see the difference in mental capacities, which I think is what we're supposed to see.
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for this kind of, when they've got to take someone out, they can contact get their contact in, whether it's Bangkok or fucking anywhere in the world, who is another Jeremy Renner. He's another Jason Bourne. He's just another trained robot. And they just send them out wherever they are in the world. Well, we've got a guy here, we've got a guy there. And they've all got the same training and they're all the same. And you get this further along in the, with the Jason Bourne movies. There's like an unspoken sympathy with each other. I think it's the Bourne supremacy. The end of the Bourne supremacy, Jason Bourne is on the roof. And the guy is stood there with the guy who's been sent to kill him. And they just look at each other. The guy doesn't want to pull the trigger on Jason Bourne. And Jason Bourne says the same statement that was said to him at the end of the Bourne Identity by Clive Owen. And he says, look at what they make us give. Clive Owen says that and then dies. And then in the end of the Bourne Supremacy, Jason Bourne looks at the guy who's been sent to kill him and he says the same thing to him. There's these little things, they're more subtle, but I did find a tremendous amount of sympathy for these trained killers, which is a feat in itself, I think.
Well, you have that moment where Ed Norton's like, well, if they find out about this program, whatever, there's going to be hell to pay. We got to do a quick damage control. And he's like, and we got to kill these people. And that one commander's like, what are you talking about? And then, we got a couple of them who just suddenly take this other pill to change, and they just die of like heart attacks, and you're kind of like, hey, Stallone, you want to talk about the Expendables? You're not expendable. They were, you pussy.
Yeah.
Take the yellow pill, you pussy. Show us how expendable you are now.
I'm funny. I'm fucking funny.
Hey,
but so that's a feat in itself, is to find sympathy for these ultimately Terminators. Really, is what they are. They've been brainwashed and they're being kept under control by these drugs. And they are there under the belief that they're killing people for their country, but these agencies are using them for more nefarious purposes.
Yeah.
And that's all the shit we love. All that, like we talk about espionage and all the spy shit. This is as much a personal story for Renner's character as it is for Jason Bourne.
Yep.
And I think with Bourne, the four Bourne movies with Jason Bourne, he's constantly finding out more about who he was.
Jeremy already knows who he is.
It's not till the end of Jason Bourne that it all is pieced together for Damon's character. But so I think that's quite a feat that they get to wrap it all up in a bow in one movie and this one. Yeah, I've got a lot to. There's a lot to enjoy about this movie.
And I like the fact that the only reason that we would have Alex Cross still out there is because he didn't want to leave the program. He was okay with being an outcome. He was good to go. When they try to kill him because they want to hide that program, it's the only reason he's not doing it anymore. You know what I mean? Like where Jason Bourne wakes up and realizes, I don't want, even though he volunteered, he realizes, I don't want to do this. He almost has a total recall moment, right? Like he forgets that he's the killer that he's supposed to be. That's who Bourne is. It's like a modern day total recall.
Well,
where Jeremy Renner's like, no, I know I'm the Terminator. I want to be the Terminator. And they're like, well, we're Terminator. He's like, well, then fuck you. Then I'll leave. But other than that, I'm like, if you send me to kill someone, the Pope, I'd have gone killed the Pope. Oh, boy. You want to put that guy from Chicago in? Upset, all right? It's done. He sleeps with the fishes. Just kidding. Sorry.
There's a lot going on in this movie, whereas I think initially you can totally be forgiven in being very skeptical about the movie without Matt Damon in it.
Yeah.
You know, I stopped watching after the Bourne Supremacy. I could say, well, I understand why you would do that because no Matt Damon, you're kind of, you know, it's a harder sell when the fucking namesake of the movie isn't even in it. So.
However, if you're a fan of espionage, James Bond has changed who he looks like a bunch of times. So at the same time, suck it up, princess. You know what I mean? Put on your big boy pants and stop putting on fucking pants.
Ultimately, yeah. But I can see why people would be skeptical.
You know what we call those people? Pussies.
Yeah, I would.
Now, this film, I'm of two minds on this, right? The point the film suffers a little bit is the wolf thing, right? Like the wolves like hunting him down.
Yeah.
Look. If I'm completely honest, that you're kind of like, really? Look, I get that they're wolves, but like, they're tracking him, like they're the predator, like you know.
Well, subtext, yeah. I mean.
However, that being said, like when they're trying to attack him with the campfire, great, I get that because we're out in the wilderness. Now that he's up over the mountain, like they're not going up the mountains to chase him. That's just not a wolf thing to do. They're not going to go up to extra higher elevation away from food to chase some fucking cocksucker from Chicago. All right, no, just kidding. This fucking guy.
Wolves don't hunt people, do they?
Well, no, they don't. But here's the thing. Not necessarily. They would eat a person if they have to. However, I'm a fan of action movies, and I'm a fan of sometimes things happening in a movie that are just cool. And even though you know it's ridiculous, sometimes you just have to be, as a fan, enjoy it, right? Like sometimes, the reason you go to the movies is to suspend belief. And if you can't do that sometimes, what the fuck's wrong with you in your life?
Read a fucking book.
While I'm not a fan of like the wolves, like lingering too long with the wolves, when he does use the wolf as the decoy, and I'm like, all right, I'm like, come on, that's kind of fun. Like,
it serves its purpose, doesn't it?
It does, but it's fun, right?
Like, no, but it's there for a reason, and they use that reason, and when it happens, you're like, nah, it's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, you're like, look, all right, maybe the wolves are too long, we don't need them, but at the same time, it did pay off. So I was like, you know what? Fuck you. Hey, it's still enjoyable. It's still an enjoyable little moment. And this does play in a more serious, kind of like what we watched. This is a little more serious. We have that lab massacre. We're adults now. So the earlier complaints from the Mission Impossible critics about this being too this or this being too dark and not fun, that's to where we're playing. And we're finally getting what I would call grown-up espionage movies with a side of pretty cool John Wick-like action, which John Wick doesn't have its action without the Bourne movies. That's just not even pretend we're gonna lie about that. The Bourne movies begat your John Wicks. So no Bourne, no Wick, no Bourne, no Craig, no Bourne, no Tom Cruise becoming a different version of Ethan Hunt. Without these, we don't get that. And so I think this is why I like this version of these espionage, because we have to suspend belief with some of the action, right? We have to, but it's getting quicker. Usually the long fights are when they're fighting each other. So that makes more sense that they would go a little bit longer because they can counter each other. I like that when someone is not on their level, they fuck them up fast and furious and it's over with. But when they decide we're pulling the plug on outcome, you don't see the lab massacre coming. And I kind of liked it. I just felt very, very realistic. This is the thing that would happen. It's dark and scary, but this is what governments do.
Yeah.
Hello, America. Wake up. This is what they do.
You're just numbers. You're just numbers to these people.
And then the house assault that comes up, too. They had to go and find out how much she knew.
Yeah.
Then when he comes down with that gun, I was like, oh, shit. Now, look, of course, they're always going to save the day. It's a movie. We have to keep moving forward. But the reality is it's kind of like, wow, this is what would happen. And it was really well done. That's why I enjoy both these movies. They really lean into some dark but adult territory that you feel like you're not just placating like the 80s, which we were kids in the 80s, so we enjoyed it. But when you look back as an older person, you kind of go, okay, this is just a lot of action for action's sake. I feel like a lot of this, we get set up for the action, and I feel like it pays off.
That pays off, yeah. And also, to go back to what we were saying earlier, you've got Edward Norton, you've got Stacey Keach, you've got Oscar Isaac, you've got Joan Allen, who's in the other Bourne movies, the tight, and you've got Albert Finney, David Strathairn, Scott Glenn. These are people who are going to be attracted to good writing.
And Tony Gilroy can write.
And he can write. So you're in good hands. I think I'm someone who I follow directors. I'm not so interested in following actors per se, but when you've got such an ensemble cast, because although Ren is the lead, he's 60% of the movie. What I'm sort of saying about this film in particular is it's a hard sell to not have Jason Bourne in his own named movie.
I get it.
But to get these people in it, that says a lot.
Well, it also shows that Bourne it's not just Bourne. Yeah, we learn about Bourne, but this is bigger than Bourne. Although he may be considered
he's the focal point, But
this
is, like you say, this just goes to show how the web, the sort of web of intrigue that there actually is, how widespread this is. This is global.
Well, we find out that the person who ends up tracking, as you said, you kind of didn't like that the woman wins the end. But we find another guy who's even better than them, like who has already been put online, like with less hiccups and stuff. Just basically a Terminator is out to get him, and he is just as relentless.
Yeah, and I fucking love that.
Again, this is that wolf scene, right? Like, all right, yes, we don't have our hero who we normally think is going to beat him, right? He kind of gets him a little bit, and they both shoot each other, but there's a little nice little chess match, and then they're chasing each other, and then she just happens to kick his bike just at the right time. I kind of like that it. Sure, she's the one who got him, but she kicked it, and I liked that when it flipped and he hit the pole. Like, he didn't suddenly get up.
No, he weren't getting up from that.
Done.
I think she does. Doesn't she lodge the helmet into the?
Yeah, she
wheel?
takes the helmet. Yeah, something like that. And he
something
flips
like
and he hits that
very
pole, and it's
frenetic.
Just done.
Yeah,
and I liked that.
Well, it's subtle and not. I wouldn't say believable, but you get it. She doesn't suddenly turn around on the back seat with two fucking Berettas and start blowing people away.
And in slow-mo.
Yeah, with a few doves flying around. But yeah, so there's a lot to enjoy in this, and it deepens the story further. This is global, counter-terrorism, but turned on its head, and you've got bad guys, within. There's something I really like about you're trained by the government to have these exceptional set of skills, and then you use them same skills to get back at them because they've wronged you. That's just
Rambo.
Yeah, well, but it is. Yeah, it absolutely is. It is where Rambo comes from. It's where all our favorite of these kind of movies come from. Is like.
Because you created the monster, and then you let the
script.
Then you get the monster.
Yeah, exactly. You create the monster,
and then you don't treat the monster right, and then you're surprised it's going to come back for you.
You create the monster, you betray the monster, and the monster comes. The hunt was it the hunter becomes the hunted. And it's just a universally loved theme, and they do it very well in this movie.
Yeah.
So basically, I fucking hated it. Basically, right?
You know what the legacy of the Bourne is? It can go fuck yourself.
Hey, fuck you, Renner.
Now, my friend, do you feel that this movie is worthy of being a sequel in the Bourne franchise?
I certainly do, because I think it achieves the impossible part, to use an expression, because it opens up, widens the story, and gives it more depth without the main fucking guy being in it. So, and I love the expansion, and it's an easy, pardon the pun, it's an easy pill for me to swallow. I get it. I was kind of wowed by it, actually. I was kind of like, to not have Jason Bourne in a Bourne movie, and to have so much depth and intensity and intelligence and action, that achieved a lot, and it's really surprised me.
I agree. I think if when you're gonna go new guy, it world build. It added in. I think it adds to the Bourne. Like I said, it is a Bourne Legacy. It's showing talking more about Treadstone, talking more about all the things that come from the world that Jason Bourne finds himself in. Right. And I think that's cool. And I think if they were to ever move off of 007 and Bond, I know that would fucking cause waves over there in the Thames. But that being said, if you do, you could, because he's a 00. There are other 00s. We just like 007. 009 might be a bad motherfucker too. 009 might not. He's like, I don't need no pussy. I just kill.
Well,
you know what I mean? You don't even know.
Well, 007 out out of what?
Exactly. And that's the thing, because we hear that these are all like outcome number this,
Is
outcome number that.
007 a high or a low?
Exactly. So
Who knows?
I think once you've established where we're playing it and you can build on it, I enjoyed the hell out of it. You could continue making these movies and add new people in as long as the story's it's about the story. If you got a good story, a good lead actor,
with
it's
the
going to be
story
fine.
comes the characters, and then you're away.
And Matt Damon's in his mid-50s, maybe getting close to 60. So look, Jason Bourne's in the he's over in the old retirement community right now.
I mean,
He's a
Tom
pensioner
Cruise
now.
is no fucking.
Well, Tom Cruise has kept himself in peak condition and runs at 17 miles an hour for reasons that I
don't
can't
know,
explain.
man. He didn't look too hot with topless in the last Mission Impossible movie. He was starting to pile on them pounds.
It's okay. It's okay. He broke his ankle in that one. Whatever. He's hurt himself more in these movies than anyone.
Off.
Listen here, you pussy. You hurt yourself just standing up. How dare you besmirch Ethan Hunt? Anyway.
I ain't even got my hemorrhoid cushion under my.
Now, where would you rank this film in the franchise?
Right. So, The Bourne Supremacy is my number one.
Okay.
This is number two.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Right. Let me start this again. Sorry. Bourne Ultimatum is number one. This is number two. Bourne Supremacy is number three. Jason Bourne is number four. And The Bourne Identity is number five.
Wow.
I think I've thought about this a lot. I don't think Doug Liman knew what he really had. I don't think he was the right director for the movie. I think when Paul Greengrass came along, he totally elevated things. There's one moment that always makes me grimace a little bit in The Bourne Identity, is when they get in the Mini and they have the chase, and suddenly this like dance music starts pumping, and you're just like, this is not that movie. Grant, if that was in a Mission Impossible movie, it'd work because it's operating on a more roller coaster vibe. But this is, you're trying to be this gritty espionage thriller, and suddenly you've got a chase in this Mini, and like this big dance tune playing, and it just completely is so wrong-headed. And there's some great stuff in The Bourne Identity, and I do kind of like it, but I just think he was the wrong guy for the job. I don't think J.J. Abrams was the wrong guy for the job necessarily. He just, his leanings showed a bit in the wrong places too, but not to this extent. You watch The Bourne Identity when that car chase happens. That's just like, man, you just cheesed it up. But yeah. So the Bourne Identity, Bourne Supremacy, and Bourne Ultimatum, Bourne Legacy,
and Jason
Bourne. That's the So I'm trying. I always get ultimatums. I always get them all muddled up. But the third one is
the bee's knees. The ultimatum. Ultimatum's third.
Ultimatum, Legacy, Supremacy, Jason Bourne. Bourne Identity. That's where I place them.
I've got this at number 3. I go Ultimatum, Supremacy, Legacy, Identity, and then Jason Bourne.
Fair enough.
Let's go to the card.
And now it's time for us to sort through the debris and decide who the winner of our Espionage action sequel showdown is. Light the match.
Best action sequences.
First up, we've got best action sequences. I'll be completely transparent. These movies, I think, are a lot closer than I thought they were going to be. I enjoyed them very close. And honestly, there are ways I could swing either way. For action sequences, the ones I remember the most, because they have really good ones in each. But I go with Mission Impossible 3 for the bridge scene, for the attacking where they're in Germany, because I think they're already playing in a world. We're learning where what's his name, Alex Cross has been kind of had his wrist slapped, and he's kind of been sent somewhere to kind of like doing some training and kind of like, look, fucker, you don't do your job. You're gonna go play fucking slapdick in the woods. You and number 3 out there, you two can't keep your shit together. And so he then has to find his way back and defend things. This is more of a mission movie. So again, you're not going to miss out. You're going to be glued to the TV for both. But I thought, as far as that kind of pulse-pounding action, I give it to Mission Impossible 3 and a couple of their sequences. How about for you?
Yeah, I had to give this a lot of thought, and I'm going to give best action sequences to The Bourne Legacy. It's just the grittiness. Quite frankly, the violence is there more for me in The Bourne Legacy. Like the end chase is great. You know, you've got the lab assault. You've got a few sequences where where Renner gets to strut his stuff, and I just found it just more visceral and gritty. Frankly, there's nothing in The Bourne Legacy that compares to the bridge assault in Mission. I can't possibly argue with that. But I actually found all the other action sequences in Bourne Legacy more memorable to me. And some of it may be just a surprise that Renner's that good, because at that point I hadn't seen
That's
him.
fair.
Yeah,
That
because
is
at
very
that
fair.
point I hadn't seen him in anything like that. I'd seen The Town and The Hurt Locker and stuff, and that's just more character study stuff. So he was just a revelation in this, where he had the chops to pull off the action stuff, and I just think he did it really well. And it's the grittiness and the violence and the kind of aggressiveness that appeals to me more. But as you said, it's a fucking thin line.
Yeah,
I could
100%.
really, you can't really criticize the action in a Mission Impossible movie. You'd be a fucking liar.
Being A24 vibes, fucking piece of shit, huh?
Yeah, but it's just for my sensibility, the gritty, violent action in Bourne Legacy just tipped the scale for me.
Best supporting characters.
Now, best supporting characters. This was very tough for me because, as I discussed just a little bit ago, I love the team that is Mission Impossible. It's what makes the Mission Impossible movies the reason you go back, because they keep bringing back the majority of the time the same people, and then they interchange some people in and out. As we said, Jeremy Renner, the ladies a lot of times change out, but we used to have the same 3 or 4 people. It's Philip Seymour Hoffman. It was between him and Ed Norton. It was the two of them. It was like, which way do I go? And it was very tough, because I do love Ed Norton, and I especially love him when he's not necessarily a bad guy, but he's just a matter-of-fact guy. Fact, not fat. Sorry, matter of fact. I should probably pronounce my syllables. However, that being said, the reason I'm going to give it to MI3 is because I absolutely do truly feel this is one of Philip Seymour Hoffman's best roles. It reminded me of how I felt about Heath Ledger when I heard he was the villain in Batman. I was like, he's going to be the Joker? The guy from the Night movie and the 10 Things I Hate About You and Brokeback Mountain. He's the fucking Joker over here, you piece of shit. And then I was like, holy fucking shit, he's the fucking Joker. And so I was like, so wait a minute, the gay guy from the gay guy from Boogie Nights and the gay guy from The Big Lebowski, he's the villain in Mission Impossible. And then he comes on screen and you're like, well, Jesus Christ. I mean, he really is fucking terrifying. So I think Philip Seymour Hoffman was amazing. I mean, honestly, you could really roll a dice, flip a coin, and choose either side, because the acting in both films I think are fantastic. I really think the casting choices for both films, they do an amazing job. But I'm going to tip my hat to Mr. Philip Seymour Hoffman. May he rest in peace, and his performance for MI3.
Absolutely fair enough. I'm just going to have to say, he's great. He is great in Mission Impossible 3, Philip Seymour Hoffman. But to me, he's the only great.
Okay, fair. Wrong, but fair.
You know, hey, never let being wrong get in the way of a good argument. But, you know, Oscar Isaac, Edward Norton, Stacey Keach, you know, David Strathairn, Albert Finney, all these people, I think they're an equal match. There's a decent cast in Mission. Obviously, Philip Seymour Hoffman elevates it. But I think, you know, we've got Scott Glenn, Edward Norton, Oscar Isaac, Stacey Keach. I'm just going to have to go with the Bourne Legacy.
Funniest moments.
Now, again, these aren't exactly jovial movies, but I do feel there's one that is playing with comedy, because it just does. It has levity. I don't think the other one,
I'm not sure there's any,
had levity, and that's not a slight. We've had these happen before, where just some movies are playing in a very serious role, and that's perfectly fun. Like, there's not a comedic moment in Schindler's List. If you find one, you're a sick fuck. Like, you're just like, hey, oh, were you kidding me? That guy did
know when the anvil fell down on that guy's head and he slipped on that banana.
Unbelievable.
That might just be a deleted scene, though.
Oh, when Hitler's doing the juggling?
Hey.
On a unicycle? It's MI3. The moment of levity, and I love, because it's a great juxtaposition, is when he calls Simon Pegg as he is, like I said, running at like 67,000 miles an hour, trying to find his wife. And meanwhile, Simon Pegg is like pretending, like he's like, puts the phone on hold, please hold, and all this other stuff. Like, those are the moments of levity. There's a group of people who are familiar with each other, just like myself and Steve, so you're going to have more fun because you're going to actually fool around with people you know. So for that reason, MI3 is actually, in all the MI movies, have some moments of levity in them, because it's impossible not to when you have a group of people constantly putting their lives on the line, and they know each other. That is how the dark humor breaks the tension of the situation. So MI3, only because it's the only movie that has any, because Bourne Legacy, I mean, the funniest part is when he fucking fucks that wolf over. I mean, but that was more of him like, fuck you, wolf.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to give it to Mission. I can't. There is not one joke, one line, a quip, barely a look of anything humorous in the Bourne Legacy. Is just a deadly, stone cold, serious movie. So absolutely no question. There's definitely more humor in Mission, and even that humor isn't exactly slapstick. So
Yeah.
So it's got to be Mission. Got to be.
Most original plot.
All right, for more original plot, it's hard to say a Mission movie has a more original plot since it's a mission. Like, there's a mission that's impossible that we will figure out. For me, I'm going to choose Bourne Legacy because it completely adds world building to the world we already know. So it would be like if we had a side movie that was, 008 and it wasn't James Bond, but it told us more about what it's like to be a 00 and what other 00s do. It can't deny the world building from Bourne Legacy. It completely subverts what you think. It had to. It doesn't have, like you said, it doesn't have Jason Bourne in it, so we can't make it a technical Bourne movie. But Jason Bourne is part of, like Bond, and like even Ethan Hawke, he's a part of a unit of government intelligence officers. There's more than just that. We're just focusing all our stuff on this person, but there are others, and we learn what the others do, and people have now surpassed Bourne because now they're making their way after his initial group kind of made it through. So I think Bourne Legacy did a great job of pushing the Bourne movies, all the stuff, the world building inside of the Bourne films, further down the road. So for that is definitely the more original plot, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'll second that. I agree with everything you've said, actually. And I mean, in its own way, Mission Impossible 3 is subversive in itself because the rabbit's foot is, we never even know what it is.
Maybe those listening know what it is now because
maybe
I think it is
not,
the end game for this, but we don't know.
So it's not even the point of the film. So I'll give it that. But like you've said, Bourne Legacy just expands on what was already a tangled web, being weaved, so to speak, and it just expands on it also. Like you said, on this, I'd have to give it to the Bourne Legacy.
Best action hero.
That brings us to Best Action Star. It's unfortunate because one of the movies is playing with a person's name who is the usual action star. Jeremy Renner's character is great. He is surviving. He doesn't know he's in an action movie, not because he can't do it. He is suddenly a person who has done something wrong where he didn't check in. He's a little bit of rogue. They're slapping him on the wrist, forcing him to go do something. And then while he's out doing this extra thing, they decide to kill the program because of Jason Bourne and people possibly this getting leaked. And so they're basically covering their asses. And now, like you said, he's a drug addict on the run who needs to get drugs in order to survive. And there's nothing wrong with that. Tom Cruise is playing the action star. Tom Cruise is doing all the action. Tom Cruise has to go and say that he's the Indiana Jones. He is the Bond. He is the Bourne. He is Ethan Hunt. He has to do this stuff. He's the only one who can. He's our action star. That doesn't take anything away from Jeremy Renner. He's just playing something different in a different movie, teaching us something. This was actually Damon's character. Now we'd have a little bit more of a chess match if there was a Bond versus them. So it's not Jeremy Renner's character's fault. That's the way the movie went. That's how it's the better plot because it's doing something different. He's not trying to be Jason Bourne. We don't even play in the same parking lot as Jason Bourne. So because of that, I have to give it to Mission Impossible because it is all about Ethan Hunt doing all of this stuff to figure out why this is happening, who set him up, save his wife, the whole thing. It's Ethan Hunt. It's on his shoulders to do this. But this is definitely, unfortunately, for Jeremy's character, this is definitely Ethan Hunt, Mission Impossible 3 for me.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. I'd have to agree with that. Not to cop out, but obviously Mission Impossible is an action movie.
Yeah.
Bourne Legacy isn't. Not in the same.
It's not in the same action of the regular Bournes that we usually get.
There's some great action in Bourne Legacy, but it's a different kind of action. If you're talking about action stars, if you're talking about big, bold action, which is what we're talking about, really, you can't compare the two. I mean, look, there's more action on the bridge attack than in anything else in the Bourne Legacy. So, but there's so much more in Mission Impossible 3. So that is what Tom Cruise excels at. I sort of feel like Jeremy Renner tried his hand at it and was great. But definitely, no question, Tom Cruise is the best action star of the two.
The better movie.
All right, that brings us to the final piece of the evening, the better movie. Once again, tough. But I'm going to go Mission Impossible 3 because I've always liked this movie better. I don't hate anything about Bourne Legacy. I love Bourne Legacy. I will defend that. As I said, I think both these movies don't get enough credit for what they do. People boo-hoo or poo-poo the Bourne Legacy because it's not Jason Bourne. It's not Matt Damon in it. I think that you are missing out on a very, very good movie that does what is very hard to do, which is not use the guy that is the focus and we tell more story and then only adds to the next time we see Jason Bourne. Like, come on. you got to give credit where it's due. Bourne Legacy is a far better film than people give it credit for. And if you're a fan of Mission Impossible, the new stuff, you don't have it without J.J. Abrams saving this fucking franchise from the doves of fire that were
absolutely.
Mission Impossible 2.
That was dead in the water before he came along.
Mission Impossible keeps me on the edge of my seat every time. I just enjoy the shit out of it. So that's why I picked Mission Impossible 3. Honestly, it's just more of my flavor is Mission Impossible than Bourne Legacy. And that's the only difference for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I would go Bourne Legacy over Mission Impossible 3, but I gave Bourne Legacy 3.5 out of 5, and I gave Mission Impossible 3 out of 5. So it's a thin line. Like you've just said, though, it's just the flip side of that coin. This is just the kind of thing that appeals to me more. I'm less interested in the spectacle of Mission Impossible 3, and I'm a little bit more involved in the story and grit of the Bourne universe. And that's it. It's simple, really. It's just where your sensibilities lie, and that is it. I like them both.
And the winner is Steve scores the Showdown 4-2 in favor of the Bourne Legacy, while Scott scores a 5-1 in favor of Mission Impossible 3, meaning we currently have a draw. So in the event that there's a draw, we go to the show's average letterbox score of each film based on Steve and Scott's ratings to decide our winner. And the winner, with an average show letterbox score of 3.5 stars, is Mission Impossible 3.
So there you have it. Another sequel showdown is in the books. Now be sure to check out our socials in the coming days for our monthly gourmet and horseshit recommendations, along with our latest inductees into our top 100 underrated films of all time. So from the Cheeky Bastards here at the Men of Action podcast, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to have an explosive fucking summer, and we'll see you next month.
Bye-bye.
That will do it for another action-packed movie showdown. Now you can join in on the debate and let us know who you had as the winner of this month's head-to-head cinematic battle by following the show on all its socials. Those links can be found in our show notes. And be sure to join us again in 2 weeks for our latest episode of Dropping a Bruise, available, just like this podcast, exclusively on the Last of the Action Heroes Podcast Network, where you can find other amazing shows dedicated to such iconic action stars as Stallone, Lundgren, Van Damme, Schwarzenegger, and Seagal. The link to the network can also be found in the show's notes. We hope you'll drop in again next month as we pit 2 Robert Rodriguez action sequels against one another, as 2013's Machete Kills squares off against 2014's Sin City, A Dame to Kill For sequel supremacy. So until then, stay explosive, my friends.
This has been a Man with an Exceptional Beard production.